So has any or have anyone heard about the Dubai Future Accelerator program? Or have you seen it in the media or anywhere? Oh, okay. Okay, that's good. So I'm here actually to give you a glimpse of what's it's actually all about, and also get you to meet the teams who are collaborating with us as KHTA within the program. Hello. So, Dubai, now just forget about the accelerator. Dubai Future. How can you imagine it to be or to look like? Let's say specifically in education. Do you have any ideas or any imagination on how schools would look like or how the students will be like?
But students have to become more disciplined to access the learning if you're talking about homework.
Oh, okay.
It's already started actually really.
Yeah.
And we've introduced split learning as well in our school, which involves students to actually study at home before bringing it into the classroom, and they explain to the class what they
take over the class.
Okay. So the timing for class like more of reflection, discussion, rather than
no,
study.
students take responsibility for their own learning, and then the teacher then facilitates that learning. Make sure, but again, it comes down to enabling students to be sure to be able to take that on.
Like we send the lesson plans to the students, and then the students, pick up some students, and then they take over the class. And the teacher just sits behind, and they take over the class.
So it's like more of a facilitator role.
Take ownership of the learning.
I mean, that would be excellent, actually. Yeah. Okay, awesome. So that's what's actually the challenge is all about that I'm gonna tell you in a minute. So Dubai Future Accelerator program or the vision or the idea behind it is to pull the future forward faster. So it's like we don't sit and wait for the future to come, but we, as human beings, we pull that future and then create solutions for challenges that we might face in the upcoming years. Now I'll show you a short video that explains what is it all about. I think the sound is a bit...
تطلعوا لمرحلة جديدة تلعب فيها المؤسسة الجديدة دورا محوريا باستشراف وصناعة المستقبل في إمارة دبي وغير تقديم التكنولوجيا المتطورة والقوانين التشريعية المناسبة التي تؤدي الوالد بين مركز العالمية لصناعة المستقبل على صعيد الإدارة والعمل.
So what do you think? Is it exciting? Yeah, okay. So the good news is that you can actually visit the space and it's located at Emirates Tower. You are welcomed anytime from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. to come interact with the teams and check out all the awesome projects those people are working on.
This would be good for student knowledge, for innovation.
Yeah.
And take the groups of students to get them starting on thinking of innovative ways.
Sure. I think it's a good opportunity for the students to be aware of all the initiatives that are happening in the future, especially now that's how the country is driven to. It's like more of forward thinking, more of visioning the future and then working towards that.
Do you have anybody in your company that can come to schools to do a presentation on this thing?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Your contact details.
yeah, sure. I can give you that later. And you are welcome actually anytime to interact with any team or anyone from DFA. Okay.
So this is like a team with all the different groups, right?
Yeah. It's actually 7 entities, 7 government entities, collaborating with 30 companies from all around the world, who have been chosen from over 2,800 applications. So they were selected for their unique ideas, for the vision they have for the future of the world, and then they are here with us today to work on those challenges. For example, with KHDA, the challenge we have is to prototype 21st century assessment systems and personalized learning solutions that work across curriculums to offer 5 times greater flexibility, 2 times lower cost, and 10 times better learning outcomes. And then the emphasis is more on the Arabic learning, STEAM, well-being, coding, and other disciplines. So in a few words, we can say personalized learning that are available or accessible anytime, anywhere, and for any student, actually. So we are collaborating with 4 teams. Each one of them is working on different ideas, different technologies that can bring solutions to the challenge we have. And we have with us today Maroof from Labster and Tom from Pedago. We also have Pixelbug and Guana who couldn't, I think Pixelbug is on their way. Yeah, they're supposed to be, okay. And then Guana is one of the companies as well. So, yeah, sure.
You said emphasize on argument.
Yeah.
How you will do this? It's open area, everybody speaks English everywhere.
Okay, so that's actually something that the teams and us are working on that kind of discipline. We have a couple of teams who are working mainly focusing on improving the Arabic language at schools, make it more entertaining, more interesting for the students. So,
I'm Arabic major in my school.
yeah.
So how can I contact with these people to have ideas or guidance for them?
Sure, and I'm available. You can visit us anytime or throw me an email so I can connect you with the right people. Okay? So this is our space there. If you just walk in, you'll find different entities. You'll find DIWA, DHA, RTA as well, and then here is our little space.
So this is for the students to visit or something like that?
It's actually open for public. Anyone can visit, but we are thinking now of some programs like to make it more organized for the students and then for the teachers to be able to get the best out of the experience or the tour there in the space. All right, so let's move now to the teams we have. We start with Pedago. Tom from Pedago will talk more about what they do. So here we go.
Switch that up.
And after their presentations, you can actually go meet them individually if you want to do a demonstration on what they guys do or have more questions, then that will be for the rest of the workshop. Okay?
If it works, but I've got to speak into the mic. Okay, all the way. All right. So, so my name's Tom Adams. I live in the States, but I'm Swedish, grew up in France and England, sort of learnt all the different curricula. I've done the British curricula, I've done the IB, and obviously by being in the US, I'm exposed to the US curriculum. So I sort of have some sense of what you're up against. By way of background, I ran and built Rosetta Stone over a decade, took it public and so on. And this is a new company now that's much bolder in its aspiration, which is essentially to create the first active learning platform that can teach literally anything at an incredible pace. So we are attacking the issue of speed. And the reason we're doing that is because if e-learning is dramatically faster, it frees up time for the teacher. And what we're trying to do is essentially what you talked about earlier on is set up the flipped classroom. And we think that if you flip the classroom, students become incredibly happy because they're engaged, they're running the show, they're creating stuff on their own. And so a lot of you are already sort of, I'm preaching to the converted with some of this, but just to sort of illustrate a little bit how we think, traditional learning has been teacher-led. Essentially the person standing at the front of the class the same way I am. And the problem is that that's not consistent with the experience of young students these days. They want to be more active. They're constantly engaged when they're outside the classroom. And so the entire, the entire library of content and media essentially has not kept pace with the innovation of leadership in schools and in classrooms. Essentially, Pearson and companies like that keep peddling their textbooks, keep offering assessment technologies, keep talking about a bunch of things that aren't the future. And so what we're doing is we're saying software is the educator. In other words, if you need to learn a new concept, we can teach it incredibly efficiently because we have a unique pedagogy, and you can try it. If you open your smartphones, you type in smartly, you download it, you'll see how we teach business courses. And I'm going to be preaching here, but it's actually not the way to discover how this system works, because it's essentially the opposite of what I'm doing now. And so if you go through it, you'll see there's an interaction every 7 seconds. So the student is constantly making choices. Essentially, we're mimicking the way you learn in real life, where you're challenged with something, you make a choice, and the feedback you get is what determines how you evolve. And that can be reinforcing a good understanding, or it can be correcting an understanding. But it's essentially feedback-based. And the idea is that we take this, and you guys do that. And if we do a great job, we think that students come in, and all of them, know the material. Because if they've gone through all of our highly interactive content, they've learned it. And we have sort of tests to show that. We've started out with an MBA curriculum. We've been adopted by universities like Georgetown. We even have companies like Uber using us for driver partner training. Our net promoter score is 50. We even have it at 70 in some countries. Most of you won't know what that means. But a net promoter score is where you ask somebody, would you recommend this to a friend? And essentially anyone who's a 9 or a 10, that percentage number is a promoter. And then you take the 0 through 6 and you call them detractors. And the promoter percentage minus the detractor percentage gives you a score. E-learning has a minus 31. There are more detractors than there are promoters by a significant number. We're 50 and in some countries 70. It means that students have a tremendously positive feeling about us. And you know, clever people on top think we're terrific. We did a test at INSEAD, the business school, and I think they have a campus here in Abu Dhabi. We ran the students through it, and we asked them before to self-assess, are you confident or not in these topics on statistics? You can see the blue bar is before. So predominantly, I'm not confident. And the red bar is where they ended up. And it took just 1 hour. 1 hour, we can move people this dramatically forward. So it's all about speed for us, and so we've really locked down on that. But it's also, of course, about efficacy. And so we've run tests on subjects like accounting and finance, where we've had students from Harvard Business School, INSEAD, and so on, do assessment and then we run our students through it. So our students also outperform, especially on quantitative subjects, which is our true strength. Our dream is that anyone can learn anything on any device in any language, but very importantly for the context here, in Arabic as well as English. Right now, I think most of the instruction is delivered in English, but we have kids in UAE schools that are learning in Arabic, even subjects like science and math. And it's important that we have a common platform so that every child, regardless of the language they're learning in, are able to succeed and essentially receive the best learning that's available. And our sort of focus is always to be 10 times faster, because if you think about the traditional sort of over the last decade, the flipped classroom has essentially been about watching a video of the teacher lecture before you come to class. But that just adds hours. We bring that down dramatically. And so we'll start with STEAM.
But this is basically for the MBAs and all, right? Not for the primary and...
So we are talking right now to KHDA and others here about developing essentially your STEAM content. We'll start out with high school, and then we'll work down to middle school. And the idea is to do that so that we can hit all of these different curricula at the same time. So our curriculum team is looking at all the different curricula across the board. Our platform is a modular system, and we're able to build playlists in these different curricula. And we can deal with a UAE curriculum just as well as A-levels as high school. So the idea is to build essentially a free resource for all of you to be able to access and have next generation learning technology and content. But that's the beginning. The idea is to then intensify our efforts on technology education, on professional training. We already have the MBA built, obviously, then do vocational engineering, and then even careers of the future, and we've got a number of subjects. But there's no reason why a child that's 15 years old and acing everything and is well ahead shouldn't be able to navigate through subjects and essentially discover their passion and be able to learn quite independently on their own, and at the same time, maybe in the classroom context, be able to sort of frame their learning around a shared project that's going on or something like that. Yeah, and that's it from me. So I'm here, and really excited to converse with you guys. And yeah, are we doing questions or not so much?
Okay, it's fine.
If you have questions, I'm happy to take them now, or...
So, what would be the role of a teacher in such a scenario?
Yeah, so that's the thing. I was hearing it before at the beginning of the meeting, which is, what is it teachers enjoy? Teachers enjoy doing interesting, creative things. But because there's an enormous amount of curriculum that needs to be taught, they spend a lot of time standing in front of the students explaining material. I believe that is redundant with our system. They don't need to do it. And you can do it yourselves, take some of our courses, and we only have a limited set that you can access on the app. If you send me an email, I can give you access to many more courses so you can see how we teach an innovation course like Blue Ocean Strategy, or you see how we teach Uber drivers, and you can see the richness of different contexts, and we're always able to essentially succeed. So the teacher essentially, so if I was going to teach Blue Ocean Strategy, which is an innovation framework, I would have the students do that before they show up to class. I can see in my system that they've all done it. I can even see if they struggled somewhere. So they show up, and Blue Ocean Strategy, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is it describes how Cirque du Soleil came about, or how IKEA came about. These brilliant ideas, where do they come from? What's that pattern system? And so you could come to class and I could say, okay, the 5 of you, I want you to come up with a strategy for disrupting the toy industry. And the 5 of you come up with a strategy for disrupting the fast food industry with a Blue Ocean framework. And then they do it, they present to the class, and they reinforce the mental model that we essentially have built in a very sort of iterative way. And then class essentially becomes all about the students being active and engaging and being practical. That's the vision.
What I also enjoy, like seeing, is when students who do get it can then teach the ones that need that little bit extra, but they do it in their own way of doing it, and it's amazing because it consolidates their understanding but helps the ones that don't quite understand.
Absolutely right. So there's a lot of studies about peer-based learning. It's incredibly important that you are grouped with kids that you learn from, and so that is facilitated by this.
What I can figure out is you're giving them the chance to work on the basics while the teacher moves further, right? Expecting that they would cover their basics, right?
Yeah. So here's the thing. So the way I think, and it's not perfect, so we can explore it, but essentially, what we teach as educators are mental models, cause-effect relationships. So they're principles, if this, then that. Mathematics, clearly, it's operational, if this, then that. And so we will build that. How we can even exercise it inside the system. But how does that come alive? How does that become something that is useful? That's the challenge, I think, of education. And so if we take care of that beginner piece and we prime them, and I showed you these studies we've done where our students without a teacher are even outperforming the students from the most expensive degrees in the world. It's because we build it so systematically. Every 7 seconds they're making a choice. It's like learning by doing.
Yeah, so when you start with that, like learning by doing. The software teaches in what way? Like it's a collection of videos, or it's
No video. I should have said no video. We do not believe in multimedia.
correct. So then what is the basic through which the students are learning? So is it like a text which the kids are reading?
No audio.
Okay.
But the problems are posed either through an image or through text. And essentially the student has to make a choice. We're sort of asking them, can you fill this in? What would that be? Which of these images do you think would be most fitting? And so they're constantly making choices.
So there's a set of these problems that come across the students, which the student has to solve, like a problem-based learning kind of thing. And then how do you finally ensure that this is where the child is with his or her learning at the end of a session the child is...
They cannot progress without getting it right. And when they get it right, they get an explanation for why they got it right.
So it's more like a step-by-step problem-solving technique.
Incredibly step-by-step. It's how we learn, when we have a tutor. And all we're trying to do is essentially borrow from the best practice that humans have had over centuries.
So
you are only e-learning solution providers.
Yeah.
Our students, maybe not all of us, all of them will follow and we're given these lessons to study at home. So how would you see the...
Yeah, so so our system lends itself extremely well to at-home training, and we do exercises, so that's easy. But my guess is that you as a teacher will have your own exercises that you want to put them through, maybe more complex things.
Yeah, so no
But there's... We're not a textbook company. No. We believe in interactive. That's our big deal. We think that the pace of feedback between machine and human is the limiting factor for someone learning something new. And so if we can give you 3 or 4, more than that, but let's call it 60 interactions in 7 minutes, which is 1 lesson, you will have figured out the basic system of that. Then you can reinforce with exercises in our system, but more likely, I show up to class, the teacher is dynamically challenging a group or me as an individual to work through a problem.
I think we can take more questions
Yeah.
later on, just to give the time for the other teams as well. Okay, let's take the last question.
Yeah.
Do you think
We think this is 7 minutes. and then you spend 1 hour.
So it's part of learning, not just whole learning on...
No. So you will learn, we will teach as much as gets taught in 1 hour in 7 minutes. But what that does is it frees up the teacher to do something else. That's the vision. That's why I talk about speed as the problem, because you can't just make students do the lesson before they come to class, because then the kids aren't doing any fun stuff after
So
school.
it's already there in the net. There are so many other sites which are already giving us giving students all the lessons, right?
Sorry?
The students are already been learning from the net.
Yeah, so that's an important differentiator. So online, most of the stuff I see is more knowledge-based. We are know-how focused. So for us, it's all about the mental models. It's the operations. So we are not, for example, we're going to look at how we teach biology, which is a sort of very knowledge-heavy domain. But our passion is much more, how do I teach you how to do differential equations? How do I teach you how to... Hard stuff, very, very hard, is our forte. That's what we make accessible to the learner, because we do step by step and they're actually working through the problem to unlock it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I really love your
So I just wanted to know first, what age do you teach?
I taught from grade 1 to grade 12.
Okay.
And now I'm coordinating for Arabic.
Okay.
I taught all grades.
Great. And in general, we're talking more primary school or primary? Okay, great. So you're exactly the people that I need to speak to. So what we specialize in is a technology called augmented reality, which brings to life educational content, characters, mascots in a very engaging and interactive way. So we've done this in the past to more of an edutainment approach with our application called Colorbug, which I can demo to you very shortly. So Colorbug, which you can see in the middle here, is an app that we've used across several schools like GEMS, JES, and Sharjah, and at the Innovator Day in Abu Dhabi. And overall, it's been a huge success as an extracurricular activity. So basically the way it works is that we have these coloring sheets. These coloring sheets here. So we have coloring sheets like this that you can print from the application, or from our website, or from a school or partner website. And all these sheets have to do with improving fine motricity skills and be able to engage with the characters and the content that comes to life. So the benefit of this is that rather than saying we want to replace content completely with digital devices, or maybe some teachers are defensive about using too much technology in class. What we're trying to do with this is really combine the best of both worlds, with both the physical and the digital. So maybe I can do a quick demo and pass it around. The way it works, bless you. Yeah, maybe that's the best way. Here, so we'll do it like this. So this, for example, is more for a younger age group. It has more of a voiceover telling a story about animals. So we have a pack called Animal Kingdom, which is more voiceover. We have another pack that's called Famous Structures, where kids color in several structures. Like this one is based in Dubai, and kids learn about the Burj Khalifa, or the Eiffel Tower, or the Sydney Opera House, etc. So what happens is simply once we point the device at this colored sheet, and the device detects it, it brings it to life exactly how, I don't know if you can see from there. So it brings it to life exactly the way the sheet was colored in. So feel free to pass it around and try it out. It's very easy. You simply point at the sheet and it will come to life. This is our application with our packs. Yeah.
What technology are you using? Is it more advanced QR code?
No, it's it uses the visual itself. There's no code there. It's the image itself. So we're using advanced like.
How many of those packs you must be having?
So now we have about 30 sheets available, and what we're aiming to do in collaboration with the KHDA is to make this more focused on education. Whereas before it was more sort of an extracurricular type of activity that kids did sort of in arts class or in a workshop outside of the curriculum. What we want to do here is make this more focused on what is the actual curriculum on.
But what happened exactly? You just pressed the button to start, and you started one of the stories saved in the tablet.
No, what it did is it detected that
the start button is not pressing it, it's the picture.
No, what happened is that it took the color in real time. So
which means that if I colored it in a different way,
exactly.
The sheet will be with a different color.
Exactly.
So that will be a different story then, you mean?
It will be.
Same story all the time.
It'll be same story, but just different color. It's and you can imagine for kids in that sense, seeing their creations come to life, it improves engagement and attention span.
For example, if they wrote their names on that sheet.
We have about 30 stories. Yeah. Some like this one that you saw, voiceovers for younger age group. The one with the Burj Khalifa is for a slightly older one where there's reading and they have to learn about fun facts about the different structures. So now what we're doing is in first phase is using this approach for Arabic learning, and then we can use it for math, for physics. So you can imagine in physics, for example, coloring different molecules, and then you have to bind them together and see in animation how the chemical reaction happens. Then, sorry?
You have to make the software first, and then only it can be. You have to update the whole thing.
Well, just have to create new content. Yeah. So the idea, what we're doing now is creating sort of a back-end system, sort of like a portal that teachers can go into and make their own augmented reality experience.
There are like 30 pictures related to those 30 stories.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, see, I told you. And actually, we've seen when we did workshops at the GEM school, parents become even more excited than their kids about doing this. Exactly, that's a great way.
My own kids read English writing.
Exactly.
I want them to write.
So imagine we can do that as a competition where there's an objective to them writing that story. Which school are you in?
Next generation school, a new school, first year.
Ah, really? Okay, great. So let's make this a next generation learning, you know?
Can I ask something? Why not we can do our own?
Yeah, so that's what we're working on now with the KHDA. Our plan is to allow teachers to do your own experiences. But that requires like development, financing. There's a plan with that.
But for this one, just moving, no reading parts.
Vision animation, yeah.
Can
Sorry?
that be any
The tablet? No, it can be any tablet. So you can download the application today on iOS and Android. Any iOS and Android. So if you want, you can do it for your class anytime.
So my name's Harun, and I work for a company called Asta, based in Copenhagen in Denmark. And so Denmark's a member of Lego and happiness, as it turns out, the happiest nation in the world. So one of my passions is really finding ways to engage students in science. And the most interesting part of a science degree, so I did 2 science degrees, actually 3 technically, but is the laboratory, the hands-on experimenting, the trialing, the failing, being able to grade things. But unfortunately, that's also very expensive to do in a classroom, and not all teachers have capacity to do that. So what we've created is a virtual environment where students can go in and do experiments, and they're related to real-world problems. So they're actually solving issues that exist in the world, and they're doing it in a virtual environment, so that when they come to class, the learning goes a lot faster for them in the actual lab. And we built these on a computer originally, and we've now moved them into mobile-powered virtual reality too, so teachers can future-proof their curriculum when the new technologies come out in the future. I'm going to show you a really quick video, given the time. So these are meant to be used as sort of like a flight simulators, is to train students before they go into class, so getting that flipped classroom model. Everything we do is couched in a case or a scenario. So the students might start off in the field or start off in a hospital working with a patient, collecting some data from that patient, and then they move into a virtual environment where they can actually do experiments with those samples that they've collected. And again, this is training for when they actually go out into the real world and have to attack real world problems. So you can see the student gets to interact with different machinery. There's data that sits behind there, so the students can manipulate different parameters on the machines. They have to do all the lab work, so they operate a hand in the virtual environment. They can operate all sorts of equipment. And when they interact with some of these, the molecules and the machines, they can also go down into the molecular level world and actually visualize what's happening, which they can't typically see. So you could be swimming through the body and look at blood cells, for example, when they come out and work in the lab. Obviously, you can do dangerous things as well, but the great thing is you can also speed up time. So you can take an experiment that might take a student 2 years to complete in an undergraduate degree and speed it up into a couple of 1-hour modules where they can really get a sense of the overarching scientific experiments. And talking about active learning before, it's very hard to make an active experience in digital. So we've actually made the student also perform actions as quickly and as often as possible. So they have to do everything. There's a little yellow dot running around before. That's the student having to change the tip of the pipette every single time. They have to pick up everything. They have to actually interact fully with the lab. It's not just sitting back and watching a video or an animation. I'm going to skip sort of part of this. I just wanted to show you this part as well. So there's also some feedback built in. So there's a textbook built in, so students can access more advanced material. And there are questions, so students have to answer questions every 10 or 20 seconds. And they also get positive feedback when they get a question right. So they do have to get something right before they can move on to the next part of the experiment. So that's quite an important part of the work as well. And there's scoring and progress and grading built into it, so that a student is sort of motivated to move on. We don't recommend using this for grading at all, because I think students get assessed in too many things. We actually want them to be able to practice repeatedly. And we found out that when teachers are using this as an activity before they come to class, before the students arrive in their classroom, a lot of students are doing it 3 or 4 times. The first time it takes them an hour and a half. The second time it takes them half that time, 45 minutes. The third time it takes them half an hour. And then the fourth time it takes them 20 minutes to get through the whole experiment, and they get it all right. And they come to class very confident that they know what they're doing. And actually we found that the learning curve is much faster now when they arrive in the lab, in that flipped lab model. Then once the student can come to the lab and perform the experiments very, very quickly, the teacher has a lot more time in the lab to re-engineer how the lab is taught. And we're hoping now to see more teachers change the lab work instead of following a set of recipes to actually be more project-based and more collaborative and a bit more social rather than sort of sitting in rows on lab benches. And that's our goal. We work with about 200 universities and schools around the world. And basically that's enough for me, because I believe we're out of time, but I also want you to try the experience, because it's quite jarring. It sort of takes you to another world and that. So I'm going to hand around 2 of them, and I'll probably put up a video so the rest of you can kind of see what it's like actually in an environment. So why don't we start here?
Excuse me, so
the students to participate in your technology, you need to have that machine.
No, so it actually works on a progressing
And
level.
we need the personal curriculum also, or the app and go.
We're hoping to make the app free to all you students here in Dubai, at least for the first year, so we'll see.
And does it cater for different grade levels, different curricula?
Yeah, so upper high school is where we started and undergraduate, and we're now moving to middle school and primary school as well to give students, or give teachers the ability to kind of create their own lab environment. Sorry? Yes, international curriculum. Oh, you can turn around and you can interact with some of the labs.
Absolutely. And I'll just show you a kind of a video of what it looks like up here as well.
The actual equipment, it's a fully immersive lab. You can go into the molecules as well, and you can interact. That little crosshair there allows the student to kind of interact with the equipment, and eventually we'll have the hands working as well, so a student can actually pick up things.
This will help disabled, physical handicapped students to have a chance